is a bit unstable, so please bear with me. But hello to everyone. My name is Cyreema Marshall, and I am the host of the role model series. So we are starting off this summer with an amazing guest. Just to give you a little background on myself, I am a second-time Elevate Plus alumni. I work with the Discovery Orchestra and HBTV in Summit, New Jersey, and I'm currently in London abroad, and I'm in a cafe, so that's what all the noise is about. But joining me right now is Izaskun Larrañeta, and I'm going to read you her bio really quickly to give you a proper introduction. She is the executive editor of The Day, and he subsequently became executive editor of the Day Publishing Company on April 1st, 2023. She also goes by the nickname Sassy. She grew up in the Bronx and came to the Day in 1999 to work as a town reporter after receiving her Master's of Arts in Journalism from Syracuse University. Larrañeta has won numerous awards, including two New England Press Association Public Occurrences Awards, the organization's highest honor. In 2016, Larrañeta was appointed as the Day's deputy manager editor, overseeing the day-to-day operations of the newsroom. And moving on into 2018, she was named Latina of the Year by the Hispanic Alliance of Southeastern Connecticut, La Latina. In 2021, she was appointed managing editor, becoming the first Latina to oversee the company's news operation. And in 2024, she received the prestigious Yankee Quill Award from the Academy of New England Journalists. So with that amazing bio, I would like to welcome Lisa. Great to see you again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Sometimes when I hear that, I'm wondering if someone's speaking about someone else, but then I have to remind myself it's actually me. Um,
Yeah.
it's nice to see
Um,
all you faces. I noticed there's a Soler there. My brother-in-law is his last name is Soler, so I just couldn't help but notice that. Hmm.
right. So for all of the new interns, it's great to see you. To all the mentors and to everyone returning, it's so awesome to see you. So we'll be asking a series of questions. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and I'll be giving you at least 10 to 15 minutes to ask your own questions to Izaskun. But I'll start off with my set of questions that I have. So my first question is about your current position as an executive editor. So how did your responsibilities change when you took on this role as executive editor?
Well, when you're an executive editor, you don't realize how much of it is dedicated to allocating resources and figuring out staffing. So it's a lot more managerial than I initially thought it was going to be because my passion has always been in storytelling and guiding reporters into what stories we should be looking at. And then you're placed in this position where you're looking at budgets, right? And figuring out what to do next and how to manage and grow the newsroom because uh, we're actually in the process of hiring three people right now. And when I look at the hiring process, I try to see who are the best candidates.
Mhm.
Looking for diverse candidates too, because we need more diversity in our newsrooms. And those are things that I didn't really have to focus on before I became executive editor. So it's a lot more, making sure that you get the most bang for your buck and extending that your budget because you have this budget and I'm always trying to fight for my newsroom to get more, whereas a lot of newsrooms are declining and eliminating their newsrooms or their staffing, and I'm trying to do the exact opposite of that.
Mhm. And going backwards now, can you tell us about your upbringing and kind of the influence that your upbringing had on your education? And then also kind of specifically, what was it like going to a PWI, a predominantly white institution for your undergrad?
Sure. So I was born and raised in the Bronx. Spent my first 22 years of life there in the Castle Hill area. So that's where I grew up. And, I got into journalism. My father used to say in Spanish, si quieres saber del mundo, lee un periódico, which is like, if you want to know about the world, read a newspaper. So I always loved reading newspapers. And it was a treat for him to buy me the Sunday Daily News, because I think at that time it was like $2. So, That was a lot of money for us in the Bronx. We weren't rich people. But one thing I noticed in reading these newspapers was that the portrayal of people, brown and black people in my community was always negative. And that really just really bothered me because I knew that that wasn't the reality of my personal experience, right? So part of that problem was because what you saw on TV and what you read in the newspapers. So I knew I wanted to be a part of the solution in some way. So I started exploring, communications and Fordham when I went to undergrad. And then I was trying to figure out, because it got more and more rampant. I noticed when I was growing up in college, um, that especially my community was just really being trashed, and I didn't care for that. So then that's why I decided to go into journalism, because you have to have people of color to tell the people that are predominantly running the newsrooms what's the reality, and what you're doing is not real. I mean, this is not, it's just a snippet. So going to Fordham, it was a majority, white school, and you're the only Latina in the class. I was, other than Spanish class, I was the only Latina, which was very difficult for me because, you know, I didn't look like them. I didn't have the money like them. I had a super thick accent. Um, I just, you feel awkward, right? You feel like you're fighting for your sense of belonging. And then you have, unfortunately, some people looking at you like you're the quota, that you're trying to fill up the space. And, I know we got a lot of rid of, like, this administration's got rid of a lot of DEI and affirmative action and such. But like I always tell people, maybe affirmative action got me into Fordham, but it certainly didn't keep me there, right? I got onto Dean's List. Affirmative action didn't get me there. So sometimes, people like to neglect your work because you're a brown or black person, like you're just a token. And I have to like remind people, no, you earned your spot there, because no one can keep you there unless you fight for it. So that's one of my things. So I found myself like in certain classes, talking about the social and economic issues, and we're talking about that, and people are in the classroom talking about it, but they never lived it, right? They don't know. They're just
Right.
regurgitating what they think it is and not having their reality. So sometimes you have to be that person to explain, no, this is what's actually happening in these communities. So I'm digressing, but like, it's challenging because you're the always the only one typically in a classroom.
Mhm. And I remember when we had our earlier discussion that you talked about your mantra of reminding yourself that you belong in these spaces. And I think that was something that stood out to me when we were talking previously, and point that I'm feeling what you're saying
Yeah,
right
like
now.
yeah. I was like that's one of the things too. Is like even at almost 50, I still
Mm.
struggle with the imposter syndrome, because you always wonder, do I belong? Do I fit in? Am I smart enough? And then you have to like say, yes, yes, you are. There's a reason why you're here. Like, you were given this position because you earned it. We're winning awards and our reporters are successful because you are being the leader that they need to be. So, I just remember my 20 something and my 18-year-old self, like, especially in these discussions and these environments where you stick out like a sore thumb, and questioning if you belong. And then you have to remind yourself, yes, you do. And that's the struggle. Like, you have to quiet those voices. You're like, yes, I do belong. Um, and the only thing that you have to prove is to yourself. You don't have to like live up to anyone's else's expectations. You have to work hard and improve to yourself and to no one else. You're going to have to work hard. And because, going back, I went to Cardinal Spellman in the Bronx, which is a really great high school. And you're thinking
Mhm.
that you're like, oh, I'm academically prepared and stuff like that. And then when you go to an academically challenging school like Fordham, you realize, wow, you had access to good education, but boy, your counterparts had really good access to their educational experiences. So you're almost like starting at a disadvantage there because they were exposed to programs that you weren't exposed to in high school. So, those are the things you have to keep up. You're almost like, yes, you got this good education, but then you have to almost go double time, triple time, because you, even starting at that high point, you're almost running a little bit behind too.
Mhm. And how did, while you were at Fordham, navigate finding the right mentors to, I guess, add to the knowledge that you already had that you wanted to, I guess, further and extend your education and your knowledge?
Well, one thing I always say, when I was in Fordham, I was my biggest advocate because when you tend to be like the only Latina in the classroom, right? So people are looking at you like, yeah, well, what is she here? Does she understand the concept? So I've made it my personal effort to like meet with my teachers during their office, professors during their office hours, so I could introduce myself, learn that I really want to learn and stuff. And as I told you in our pre-thing, I had a professor, Professor Sicker, who like looked at me like I was crazy because he was like, and during class, I understood, I was engaging, I knew the topics, but then my writing didn't necessarily reflect that, right? So he was like, "Why are you here?" Like he couldn't understand it. Like, I know you understand it, but you're not able to translate that in writing, which is ironic because now I'm all I do is write. But um I kind of like showed him that I was interested and to take me seriously, you know? And then he kind of like focused on me and realized, oh, she's like, she really wants to learn. So I felt like in these throughout my whole life, I have to be my own advocate and like my biggest cheerleader because no one's going to cheer you on. So that's one thing I can like tell everyone here is if you're still in college, meet your professors, let them to get to know you on a more personal level, and that you're not just there to be there to fill in some quota because you're not. You're there to learn and to grow and to be the next generations of leaders. So when I'm in a room, I make sure that I'm present, looking people in the eyes, which was a very cultural shift to me because culturally, you're not Latinos, you don't, you bow your head down, you don't give eye to eye contact because that's disrespectful, and I'm sure other cultures as well. So you have to like almost unlearn what you learned at home when you're presenting yourself in a professional setting. But advocating for myself was the biggest way to show and prove who I was to people.
And that leads me into my next question about your approach to networking, because clearly you had to distinguish between what you were learning at home, this experience at college, and then obviously the experience of entering your career. So how did you approach networking, whether it was using just your natural charm and like discussing with people or LinkedIn?
Well, I always say like if you're invited to go somewhere, go. I mean, even if you feel awkward or you don't belong, or maybe you don't have the cute outfit or whatever, just go. I mean, because you're gonna feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. You learn to get out of that, but you want to make an effort to learn and meet people who aren't like you want to leave a good impression with people because then they might, remember you when you meet them the next time. And you never know that the person that you're meeting at these networking events can recommend you for a job or an internship, or, if there's a job opening, they can like say, I remember so and so I met, don't ever feel like you don't belong in a setting. And don't let anyone make you feel that you don't belong in a setting. So like you almost have to call down those voices, which is something that I've struggled with and sometimes still struggle with. Like I'm talking to you guys right now and I'm thinking, what the hell I'm talking to you guys? What do I have to offer? But then I have to remind myself, no, I've been in this business for a long time. I have something to offer, hopefully to you guys. So just go. Even if you feel uncomfortable, go. Say hi to people, firm handshakes, eye contact. Ask interesting questions, not one-sided questions, but just make the
Mhm.
effort to go.
And it's like, how can you make a good impression if you're not even in the room to make that?
Well, you
So
can make any
definitely.
impression if you don't show up. So, I mean, that's the
Right.
bottom line.
Definitely. My next question is, what has been the most challenging opportunity that you've taken on in your career, and how have you handled it?
Well, I guess I could say like looking current, like, taking on this position as an executive editor, like you're the first, whenever you're the first of something, that's a lot of a challenge, right? So you're the first female, you're the first Latina running a newsroom. So there's a lot of pressure on you because you don't want to screw it up. You don't want the place to fail and then have people, oh, it failed because, she's a woman, or she failed because, she's Latina. So that's a lot of pressure on itself. So, just constantly demanding like the excellence and keeping the business afloat and keeping, what we do relevant is like the constant pressure in this position. Plus, you have to deal with the finance part of it and the budgeting, which is something that I kind of learned I wasn't trained to do, but then I got good at it, So again, just because you don't know how to do something doesn't mean that you're not capable of learning it. And my biggest thing is like, I didn't necessarily understand all those spreadsheets and those budget numbers and, stuff because math wasn't necessarily my forte, but I wasn't afraid to ask questions. So I wasn't afraid to look silly by asking a question that supposedly in this position I should know, right? So I would say like just ask questions and learn. And that's the biggest thing. But the biggest challenge when you're for the first of something and you're running the newsroom, it's a challenge because you don't want to fail.
Mhm. And I think everything new is a learning curve, definitely. And that leads me to my next question about like the changing pathways into the career of journalism. And I know that you were discussing attending whether it was AI seminars or workshops about other opportunities, about that even in this current position, you're still active about your learning. So how do you apply these kind of moments that you're taking to learn to the new ways in which young people can get into their careers in journalism?
Well, I mean, first of all, if you are interested in journalism, I would always recommend to like read a newspaper, or if you go online, read a reliable source. Don't trust everything that you see on social media. I mean, that's just like terrible. I mean, we're trained to like, be unbiased and factual, and what you see on Snipmet on TikTok or whatever, Snapchat or whatever that you guys use to get your information, that's not necessarily true. So I would say to start off there. I always tell people, like, when I look for candidates, obviously I want to see some clips and stuff like that, know that you have some journalistic training. But I always say, like, I can teach you how to write, I can't teach you how to be curious. In any position that you go in, you should be curious. But back to me, like, I need you to be wondering why this happened so you can tell the people, be storytellers. I want you to be curious and knock on some doors. I want you to be, reporting isn't done by email or by sending DMs. It's by making like eye contact, knocking on doors, picking up that phone, in person. So that's how you tell your best stories. So that's one thing I look from my reporters. Like, I can teach you how to write, I can teach you how to organize a story, but I can't teach you how to think out and be creative. That's something that you either have or you don't. And
Mhm.
some of the best reporters that I've had were the ones that maybe didn't have the best writing skills, but boy, they were curious. They wanted to know the why of everything, and they came out with like some of the best stories. So, but if you're interested in journalism, I would definitely like, take some, join your paper or take some journalism classes like that. You could have the fundamentals, get some clips. And the thing is, like, journalism also is not just like writing. There's, photo editing, there's video, there's designs, there's revenue, advertising revenue opportunities. So it's not just like writing. It's a whole field. I feel like the journalists that I work with can work in any field because they know how to like take information and feed it back to people in a discernible way that you could understand. And I also think that writing in general is a skill that can be used across all fields. So I mean, it's a talent, to write and be able to communicate.
And when you're talking or discussing with your newest employees or interns, how are you talking with them in terms of like the wide range of opportunities within the field of journalism as it's changed to, I guess, also being connected to social media and, like you said, knowing primary sources, knowing how to disseminate information properly. So how are you having those type of conversations with young people who are joining or working with you at the day currently?
Well, I know this is like we're different in different world. One thing I tell my like employees is like if you're working for us, because the one thing that you have as a journalist is your reputation. You may have your personal feelings, but your reputation to the public is everything. So what I tell people is like on social media, stay apolitical. You don't want to like favor one side or the other, even though inside you know what your heart is telling you, even though I think we all agree what's going on, maybe a little crazy. But if you want to be taken seriously, you can't put your biases out there because no one's going
Mhm.
to take you seriously. It's just not. They're going to think everything that you write is with a slant. So you can't do that. And rule of thumb in general, be careful what you post on social media because a lot of employers are doing the background check. Not, I don't, necessarily do that, but I know as having, children in college and stuff like that, a lot of people are scraping your social media to see if you're saying something crazy one way or the other. So just
Mhm.
side note, be careful with that. So when I tell reporters, newbies, I say, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't think you have to know everything. We all started from scratch. So that's my mindset. No one is expected to know what they're doing on day one. or even 6 months down the road. You're always learning. So don't be afraid to like feel silly. Because, again, it's about your reputation and credibility. If you write something and there's errors in that, you look bad and they make the paper look bad. And then you lose your, people's trust. And you cannot lose people's trust in this business. It's everything.
Yep, your credibility is.
It's everything. If you're not a credible news source, then you might as well like pack it in.
And what advice do you think would have been beneficial at the start of your career, but then also in general of like any advice that you think interns should be internalized?
I'm sorry, I missed I missed that question.
What advice do you think would have been beneficial at the start of your career specifically, and then in general, what advice do you think interns should be internalizing?
Well, I guess see, when I first started, like, social media didn't exist. The internet was new. So it's amazing how it's evolved, right? If I would have told myself in the beginning, was like, don't give your articles for free. There's value to it, because now when people are expected to pay for articles, they're like, why? It's for free. And then I always say, well, can I go to your job and take your stuff for free? My reporters don't work for free either. So,
Mhm.
but I wish I would have learned maybe more like video skills. But again, that didn't exist, right? Like this thing didn't
Mhm.
exist when I was starting. So, but I guess what I would recommend for like people who are interested in this field is to learn as much to be a multimedia journalist. In other words, you can take your photos, you can video edit, you can write a compelling story. The more that you can do, the more sellable you are. And if your hopes are to like go to a top tier paper, like a national paper, not necessarily top tier, because I think we're top tier, but like a national newspaper, the more skills
Mhm.
you develop, the more marketable you're going to be. And if you know a different language, the more marketable you're going to be. If you want to learn a different language, take that on. You want to have more skills so you can be, more desirable to that prospective employer.
And have you noticed that your employees who are multimedia or who are multi-hyphenate, I guess, in their skills do eventually go on to work with other publishing companies, other news companies? Do
Oh
you think
yeah,
that
yeah, like
particular skill?
oh yeah, absolutely. Like, we're like the training ground. I always say like we're the training ground. Like I'm proud to say that I've helped people go to the, New York Times, Washington Post, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, like that makes me very happy and proud of them. But those are the ones that are curious, who are willing to learn and to take on new initiatives and try different things. The ones that are stuck, they're not going to go far.
I guess my next question is about like the wide range of roles that you've taken at this one company, because I do think that we're in kind of a changing industry in which a lot of people don't usually stay at a job or a company for this long. So what made you not only committed to the day, but what also made you acquire the skills to go from staff writer, deputy manager, all the way up to executive?
Well, for me, like I've always been a naturally curious person. Now, honestly, like anyone like that's been at the day for as long as I can work at a national paper easily. I personally wanted to stay and tell local news stories because I think that has more impact in my community. I was always focused on my community. I also felt that I would have in this role a more authority to help diversify the newsroom, to help bring voices of color that are experts. That's one of my that always was drove me to do this, is to just to bring different voices and let people know that we have value in the community. And the one way you can do that is when you write stories about them. So that's something that my personal mission that I felt that I could do locally and not necessarily be a number at a bigger chain newspaper. And what I've noticed too with these chain newspapers are beholden to these corporate shareholders. And now you can't
Mhm.
even tell stories with facts. I mean, because it's crazy, facts are have become dangerous, even though they're facts. So um I, like every time I felt like the universe, or like when every time I felt like I was gonna like go somewhere else, I got promoted within the company. It's like the universe kind of knew, like, oh, she's itching to leave. Let's give her a new position or a job or a new title. So I mean, for me, it's like, everyone who starts out in any business, right? You're starting from the bottom. So like if you're coming to the day or a newspaper, you're going to start at the bottom, which means usually like covering your local town. I mean, you're not going to start, doing those fancy topical beats or writing huge magazine features or whatever on day one. No, you got to learn and start from the bottom and work your way up. So, and that's what I essentially did is start towns and go to beats and become an editor and then just work my way up from there.
I remember you talking about kind of like some of the best people are face to face, like they're not doing their research or they're not asking their questions through email. So how do you build those type of relationships, not only with sources, but I guess with people in general, so that they feel comfortable not only giving you information, but just having a lifelong connection with you?
Well, like, I just can talk to my experience. Like, my thing is, I never, like, if you're going to call someone about a personal issue, you don't send them a DM and you don't email them on that, right? You make the effort, you knock on their doors, you show them that you're being sincere. You're not trying to be like, a parasite or like a paparazzi thing, trying to get gossip for the sake of gossip or news for the sake of news. I mean, people used to tell me, like, I can't believe you got this person to like open up to you. How did you do that? And I was like, well, just, being honest and sincere. And, I used to cover like a lot of crime and, breaking news stuff. So I was talking to people at their worst. And, the first thing I said was like, you would tell when I meet someone under those circumstances is sincerely apologize for their suffering. And I meant that, right? I'm not trying to like, oh, your son got shot. Oh, can you tell me, like, I'm not trying to like,
Mhm. Sensationalized.
exactly. That's not my point. And my thing, it was like, let's tell this person's story other than just being a victim of a crime. Let's get to the root of who this person was. And when they saw that I was really sincere about that, people would open up to me. You have to sometimes establish trust. Like I wrote this big story about this mortgage scam during the height of the 2008 recession, where people were just losing their homes and would be defrauded in mortgages and stuff. And I wrote a series on that eventually led to the incarceration of two people, including the disbarment of a lawyer. But to get those people to tell their stories to me, it took time. It took me meeting them a couple of times a week before even writing or pen, just to build that trust. Because they didn't want to look foolish, like, oh man, I should have known better, right? Maybe it was too good to be true to sign this mortgage or to hand over my house, my deed to this person, thinking that they will bail me out.
Mhm.
But once they know who you are and that your intentions are just to share their story in an honest, fair way. Because sometimes you have to bring, you write about someone, you're not just writing all the glowing parts of their life. You have to also bring back, some of the things that they did. But as long as I was fair and I was upfront with people, they were willing to, and open with me. So that was my philosophy and everything, to be honest and open and fair when I told these stories, which is the same thing I tell people. You can't be honest. People don't know you if by, doing a chat through Messenger. It's impossible
Right.
to get to know you, who you are. You got to, meet them. They have to look in your eyes. They have to know what your motivations are. You can't get that over the phone. You have to make the effort. And let me tell you something. I've knocked on doors and had people close the door and curse me out more than once. And then I would be like, I'm so sorry. I know this is a hard time. Leave my business card. And maybe I'll show up, a couple of days later to see if they calm down. And sometimes they curse me out again. All right, that's just words. I don't care.
Mhm.
And sometimes, but the third time I'll be okay. I'm being annoying ass. I don't want to do that anymore. But sometimes they feel sorry because it's so easy, to hang up on someone than to slam a door in someone's face.
Mhm.
So after the third time, they're like, okay, let me see what she's really about. And then once they finally gave me the chance, then they would like talk to me. But you gotta like not be afraid to get doors slammed in your face.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the best
Yeah.
stories I've been told, I've been chased down the road. I mean, seriously, but I got a good story out of it. So,
It's also kind of the idea of resilience and never that like at first rejection is just like, okay, maybe I can go again. I can, come back to either this story or this opportunity because first
mm-hmm.
rejection doesn't have to be the final rejection.
No, your first no isn't your no.
Hmm.
I mean, you gotta try again. Sometimes you gotta be annoying. Who cares? Like one of my things is I've never worried about what other people thought about me, which I guess it was my saving grace, especially growing up where I grew up, right? Because if I had to worry about people thinking, oh, this girl from the Bronx with her whatever and her big hoop earrings and da 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 whatever, that it never phased me. Like people's opinion of me never phased me. Thank God. So a no is a no today. Maybe tomorrow it'll change. I don't care. It's not going to affect me and affect my mood one way or the other.
And when you decided to do your master's, what was that thought process like of continuing your education, whether it was in communications or specifically in the specialty of journalism?
Well, I did it with the specialty in journalism because again, like my first like 3 years at Fordham, I was doing communications theory research, which was like the study behind initially was the study behind why the media portrays community, but it was more research based,
Mhm.
and honestly, like I can't see myself being stuck in a lab or an office. I wanted to be with people. So then I kind of switched gears and, started on the journalism end because I really got to interact with people. But then I realized that was my senior year and I was like, I wanted to learn more. I needed more clips. I wanted to go to a really great journalism school so I can get the best knowledge that I could. So that's why I decided to pursue my master's right after undergrad. I just went straight because I knew that's at that point, I knew that that's what I really wanted. And I wanted to
Mhm.
surround myself with the best educators in that field. So that's why I did it.
And side note on like anybody who is thinking about masters or considering it, have the opportunity to do it, I would recommend. If you want to specialize in anything further extend your education, I think it's definitely worth it because like you said, now you have a clearer mindset in terms of what your goal is or what your career is going to be. So now you're like, okay, I know how to navigate the ways that I want to. Did you have a similar experience or feeling you described?
Well, I always say like I'm glad I got my master's when I did because I was still young and had energy. I can't picture myself like getting, having kids and then going back to school. So I always say if like you have this desire to learn and I mean, education is just so expensive, it's crazy. But if
Mhm.
you think you could swing it, try to swing it, in the long run it will pay off. But like I say if you can while you have the energy get as much get it done now because once you really like settle into adulthood is it gets complicated.
It gets very difficult.
Hmm.
Andrew had a question about running the newsroom of like how do you keep your stress in check and how do you create a work-life balance with so many responsibilities?
Well, if I'm going to be honest, I'm still trying to figure out the work-life balance,
Mhm.
because the news never stops. We're a 7 days a week operation, so like every other weekend, I'm also on call to make sure that if something breaks, that I'm able to edit it and post it and stuff like that. But the thing is like if I show panic, then everyone's going to show panic, and then everyone's going to act crazy, right? So if you keep your head cool, people are going to vibe off of how you act. So when we were having a couple of years ago, when we had some stressful situations, we unfortunately had to reduce the size of the newsroom. I could have been like, "Oh my God, the world's coming to an end. It's over for us." No, you have to like, be honest, but lead with a level head
Mhm.
and you like and be honest with the people. Say this is a bump in the road, but not the final part. And which is true because now we're hiring like 3, 4 positions, which we couldn't have done. So sometimes you got to right the ship, go with the flow, and then know that it's not going to be always negative. You're going to have that upswing. But I'm also realistic with my people too, is like, we're having a good year, yes, but we also have to be realistic that, tides turn. There's good years, there's bad years, there's in between years. You just got to write it out. But I think being calm and not panicking is key to everything because people are going to like say, oh my God, if the boss is going flipping out, I'm going to flip out. And you can't do that.
Right. And when we were talking about gathering like clips or creating kind of a multimedia portfolio, what are you looking for whether it's bringing on a new employee or when you see an employee and think that they can move up in the company? What is something that you're looking for specifically in their clips or in their portfolio that demonstrates that they can have a lasting career as a writer?
Well, you want to like have things that are well, from a newsroom perspective, like I like to see
Yes.
like hard news, some features. If you can shoot some video, fantastic. If you can shoot some photos, fantastic. I want to see like diversity in what you can produce. But like I said, like, you when we hire someone fresh out of college, I know they're not going to have a huge portfolio, and that's okay. I need to see that you're curious and driven. That to me is honestly that's so important for me to see that. But like let's say if you want to like take writing full on, you got to really, um have different range of clips. A lot of, if you're gonna, for newspaper, I'm speaking specifically to newspapers, nowadays, these kids that come out of graduate school, I mean, journalism school, they know how to do everything. They know how to take photos and edit video and write on deadline. They know how to do it all. Like, when I was coming up, that didn't exist. So these kids are special. They really are because they can be put in any situation and know how to handle it. So I think it's just like, you gotta like have like a little portfolio. No one's expecting someone out of undergraduate to have dozens of clips and stuff, but you want to have some decent content to share and good references too.
And I know we talked about, or like we began to talk about AI in our previous conversation. So I just wanted to know anything or how you think AI has changed the way people like grew up in journalism first and foremost, and then also too, what do you think that the day's relationship is going to be with AI technology?
Well, AI is like AI is a tricky thing, and I think all newsrooms across the country are trying to figure out how to like use it effectively, but not in a way that it creates mistrust, in a way that it doesn't replace people, right? We don't ever want to replace people. We don't want AI to take whatever sources and create a story. But can we use AI to for efficiencies? Like right now, we're in the process of getting a new content management system that has a lot of AI features built in. The difference is as this system is it's a closed, so it's not like getting sources. All this information is getting, it's like from our own articles. So it's not taking sources from God knows where. So, but do I think AI can be helpful? Sure. Like maybe it could help you write a, SEO friendly headline to engage more readers. Do I think AI should ever be used to write your story? No. That's just to me that's a cardinal sin to me. I mean, you have to have a human element to it. Do I think that AI can maybe help you? We have this thing called no, I mean, you guys probably know about this anyways. Like you guys know everything. Notebook LM, where you can take a whole bunch of research, right, and upload it, and then you could like you obviously have to read your research, but then you want to like look for some quick source and it'll just bang it out for you, or like it could give you a summary. I say that's a good use of AI, right? But with the caveat, like if that tool is spewing something, you have to verify it for yourself. You don't take it, for the truth and just put it out there. So AI can be used as a tool as long as a human verifies it before you put it out to the public. But I would never use it to replace a reporter. An AI tool can interview someone who had the most horrific day of their lives, right? AI is not going to be able to tell that story or shouldn't. So,
Agree. Are there any, in terms of any questions right now? Anything that you guys are thinking of that you would like to ask? If not, yeah, please drop that in the chat. But my next question is, wow, yeah, I did. My next question is, you taking on the position as a mentor, what is something that you I guess wish that you, in terms of like being an ideal mentor, what is something that you wish um had been said to you that you have now passed on to other writers, interns?
so I missed that. So you would say what I wish, so what a mentor did for me? I'm sorry, I missed that question.
Yes, as a
Okay,
mentor.
as a mentor, first of all, I would have liked to see more people that look like me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and be honest, there's not a lot of like, even today, like when I go to like conferences and stuff, there's very few people that look like me. So what I like to do is when I see a group of young people, who look like me. I already know that maybe they feel a little awkward, out of place. So I make an effort to like introduce myself, make them feel comfortable, ask questions that, which I generally am curious and, always like, happy to see people, especially young people of color in these situations where you don't normally see them. But I guess wish when I was like, needed some guidance that I wish I had people that I could like relate to. Don't get me wrong. I met a lot of wonderful people, lots of wonderful people, but they didn't have my lived experience. So I wish I engaged more with that. Like I had that experience. So when I see people like that, first of all, I never want to assume that someone who's brown and black is like, came from the hood or whatever. No, I'm not doing that. No, I don't do that. But if they happen to come from the hood, I know what it's like. So, I don't want to be a stereotypical person, say, oh, this person must come from this place. I'm never going to pigeonhole someone like I have been pigeonholed myself with the assumptions. But I want to, embrace people and let them know that, I'm happy to see them here and you belong, right?
Well, oh, I see a hand. Amor, you have a question? Good evening.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Amori. First, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. Everything you said has been extremely insightful, especially for me. I'm a recent graduate from King University, and I did major in journalism.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, as someone who majored in journalism and has had experience, I'd say like I have like a sort of like a collage resume. I've done print and video and photography. But I'm still struggling to find my niche. So, like, what would you say to someone who's interested in everything but is struggling to find something that they want to do consistently, if that makes sense?
Sure. So you just graduated?
Yes.
Okay, so um you don't have to figure it out all right now. What I'm saying is get get whatever experience you can get, whatever you can get your foot in the door, try that. And guess what? If you don't like it, guess what? You just eliminated that thing. You don't know what you really truly like or don't like until you start doing it. So, I'm assuming like you're like 21, 22 or something like that, right? You're not supposed to like know everything right now. What I want, like what I would encourage is like try to get a position in some sort of journalism field, right? Whether it's magazine or newspaper writing, just to start to figure out what do you like to know? Do you like writing more features? Because everybody loves feature writing. Everybody, oh, that's the fun part, right? That's the easy part. But guess what? No one in their first career, first real job is going to have the fun feature writing. I promise you, that's not going to happen. But can you get your foot into the door where eventually you can become that feature writer that you want to do? So I always say, like, try to get your foot in the door, do the job as long as you're respected, right? Obviously, that is going to get you the opportunity to be where you need to be. Get that experience so like that you could move to the next level and to the next level. I think, it's like I don't expect anyone at this age to know what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. I think it's kind of unfair because you may have various careers in your future, right? Various jobs in your future. So just get that writing experience, whatever that genre is, and then you could like focus and centralize and figure out what you like and don't like. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was a great question. Because like we were talking about before, in terms of that, it's a wide range. Like we talk about like the umbrella term of journalism, writing for makeup and magazine companies, and many different opportunities out there. So if you give anything a try, you will find.
And not only that, but the people that you can meet along the way. You know what I mean? So, like, let's say you work at a different place and that person moves on to some place where you like and you left a good impression with them. You could reach out, like, hey, if there's any openings or opportunities, just keep me in mind. So it's really about like networking at this point too. Like you want to get some experience on the job experience, but it not may not be necessarily in what you wanted right away. But it's not going to necessarily happen right away. It's going to probably take a couple years, but get that experience writing clips, get the know of people, prove that you can write about anything, right? And then those doors will open even quicker.
Another question that came in the chat is about trust in terms of like businesses? Like, do journalists have the room to make like mistakes, whether it's in their writing or in the published product? So, like, if a mistake is made, how do they correct that to maintain the reputation of the company and of their writing?
Well, the goal is to make not huge factual mistakes, right? So let's not do that. I mean, I always tell, this is why I'm saying, like, ask the question. If you don't understand something, ask the question, ask it again, ask it again, ask it again to make sure you're right. And I used to like annoy people. You're asking the same question over and over. And I go, I'd rather be right and in print than wrong after the fact. So that's the first
Mhm.
thing. Try not to get like major things, but are there going to be times when you accidentally misspell someone's name or get the figure off wrong a little bit? Yeah, you try not to do that, but we're human, right? It happens. Everyone makes a mistake. So what you immediately do is acknowledge the mistake, you run a correction, and then you fix the article. That's what we do. Anyways, we try not to, we don't have, fortunately, knock on wood, too many mistakes. But if we do, we address them right away. We don't try to like argue with people. It's, oh no, you no, we fix it and take accountability. And that's how you maintain your reputation.
Another question in the chat is about touching on the fact that graduates are now coming into the workforce with a lot more experience and qualifications, but also discussing that with AI, entry level requirements outside of college are already requiring you to have 2 or 3 years of experience. But do you have any tips on how to stand out or to make yourself look more appealing on paper with or without these qualifications?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, AI is like messing up people really big time. So here's the thing
Yeah.
though. So whatever skill set that you have, try to be the best at that. So whatever position you are, try to gain, it's about experiences and what you could add onto that resume. To me, um, I'm gonna reframe it to me. I take your experience more what you have done than what program you're trained on. That doesn't work for me. I want to see that you are capable and well-rounded. So AI, I mean, I know we think that it's going to replace us all and stuff like that. And I think that in some positions, maybe make it more challenging, but
Mhm.
AI doesn't have that human interaction and experience that you have that you can convey to a real person in real time. So we can never forget the human element of everything. So to me, embrace experiences, network, go to programs. Like after this, like my philosophy is like if you don't learn something new every day, then you're not growing. So right after this, I'm literally going to another conference on learning how to do philanthropy, donors driven to sustain newsrooms. That's something that we never had to think about, but that's what I want to do. So you always want to grow. Join, a lot of these programs are free too, and they're online now. So
Mhm.
learn so you could put that on your resume. You attended this training, you're certified in this, you did this experience, you had this intern. That is more valuable than whatever AI is doing, in my opinion.
Mhm. Oh yeah, now qualification, like it's a further stamp of your skills, and it's also just a good way to continue to exercise your skills. Because if you are trying to look for a job and you have the skill but it's not being applicable, it's it feels kind of helpless. But I understand when you join these programs, when you do these workshops, it never feels like your skill is going away. So it's going to continue to grow. So I definitely think that's fantastic advice. I have another question in the chat about as someone who is Latino or Latinx or someone coming from a different background, what advice would you give to students and young professionals who feel underrepresented and who aspire for leadership roles?
Well, you gotta show up and be the first, so that's the first thing. I'm experienced that throughout my whole career. I was always the first one. So what I try to do is like be the best that I can, learn the skills. So whatever field you are, even if you're the first one, open those doors too for the other people that are coming behind you. So someone has to get into that door first. Why not you? I mean, I know it's going to be challenging and harder, but someone has to get in there first. So at least you'll have the compassion and knowledge and know the experience so that you can welcome people in. So that's the challenge. When you're the first of anything in any organization, there's more pressure. But just think about it. 2 or 3 or 4 positions down the road, when you have more people and more diversity, you're helping them pave the way. So that's sometimes the burden that you have to take. But you belong. So
Yeah, no, I understand it can be very like it's uncomfortable to be the first, but it's and like you were talking about earlier, it's the pressure of knowing that you're opening the doors, you're creating kind of a stepping stone or a path for others coming after you. And I think that kind of addresses this question in the chat about feelings of insecurity or about reaching your career goals. Of like your career goal is movable. It doesn't have to be this say one thing that you have to achieve because there's so many different ways for you to continue to grow as a person. And with that growth as a person, your career goals will grow with
And I think one of the
you.
things too is to acknowledge that your career goal today is not going to be the same one necessarily in 5 or 10 years. Maybe it is, that's wonderful. But you also
Mm.
have to learn how to adapt. And I also think that it's okay to step away from a situation if you don't feel value, if you don't feel like there's growth opportunities. And that's okay too. You know, I've been at my company since 99, but which is honestly unheard of. People don't stay at
Yeah.
for companies for so long. But I
Mm.
can say truthfully that I stayed because I felt that I had value to give and my value was received. Had
Absolutely.
at any point I felt like I was being treated less than or I wasn't being respected or I wasn't able to grow, I would have walked away. And sometimes walking away is the healthiest thing you can do. So, I mean, I'm doing what I love, but it wasn't easy. And the thing is sometimes you got to do multiple things to figure out what you love.
Are there any other questions? Because I still want to be respectful of your time, of course. In our last sessions, are there any additional questions that has or any comments that you want to make? Well, if not, I just want to say thank you so much for being. Andrew's final question. Or what do you like to do for fun outside of your job?
I like to say that my kids have a better social life than I do, so my fun is watching them spend my money.
Right, right,
Or
right.
what little I have. I mean, I don't know. I'm going on vacation next week, so that's what I'm looking
Okay.
forward to. I'm going on vacation in the sand,
Where
in
are
the
you
Caribbean.
going?
I'm going to the Caribbean.
Oh,
I'm going to visit Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo. I'm going to go to Bermuda,
yes.
and I'm just going to like enjoy the sun. I put my email in the chat, so if you want to reach
Thank
out to me for anything, just put in the subject line elevate because I get like literally hundreds of emails a day. But if you put
you.
elevate in the subject line, then I'll know it's from you guys. So if you want to like reach out or if there was a question that you didn't want to ask publicly, I'm available.
Thank you so much. And can our interests also connect with you on LinkedIn?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
All right, great. But yes, again, thank you so much for being our first role model super series of the summer. You gave us so much insight into not only your day, your career in journalism, but just overall how to be an amazing person who has a lifelong career and who has, you know, changed people's perspective on um, how to get into a career and to have a lifelong. Sorry, the sound of the cafe just overwhelmed me a little bit, but thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation, and I know the interns do as well. So please connect with Izaskun LinkedIn. And like she said, if you have any additional questions, you can reach her at the email that was dropped in the chat.
All right, thank you. So wonderful seeing all these beautiful faces. I didn't have this when I was growing up, so keep on doing the fight. Keep on fighting and doing the good work.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Cyreema, too.
Yes,
Bye.
thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
Cyreema.